Welcome back to Data to Decisions. In the recent series of videos, we have been building on this interactive report based on publicly available employment statistics data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics website. Until the previous video, we have talked about how to extract the data, how to create the necessary calculations, how to build these data bars, how to build this interactive slicer and the map visual. So we've done all that. Now, what we have left to do is to create these top 10 and the bottom 10 tables on the right side, which are dynamic, which in response to the slicer, as well as create these little arrows that you see on top of there and then here. So let's see how we can build those arrows and then the top 10 and bottom 10 tables. And then we will do some concluding statements about this exercise of converting raw data into decisions or insights using some simple techniques within Excel. Now let's get started. So let's continue from where we left off in the previous video. So we have the map visual. Now let's do a top 10 table here, right? So I'm going to just type in, and then this is where I want to have uh, my values or the table created. So first thing I'm going to do is to set up some column widths. So maybe I want the state name first, and then I will do another for, let's say, state, and then I want to have unemployment percent, and then I'm going to have month over month change, and then the year over year change. And for these two, I'm going to put column width of 12 because I want to make sure that the names are readable. And I'm going to select all and then change the background color and so that it kind of stands out as a header. So this is the header, and we can have outside border, and then we'll actually have the font in a slightly different color, bold. Let's say, okay, so we have this. Now, what we can do next is to write a formula which creates that top 10 table, right? So how do we do that? So we'll start with first, if you remember the data table in the data sheet, this is where all the data for all the states are. So now I want to only bring in the data for the top 10 states, which with the measure as chosen by the slicer. Okay, so let's do one step at a time. So first thing I want to do is I want to bring in, let's say, all the data. So I'm going to use the index function and say, bring the data from the table named data and then the row number. How many rows do I want? I want all the 52 rows. So you can do 52 if you know that that's the number of rows in your data. If you want it to be dynamic, I can actually say rows of the data table. And then the way to extract all the 52 rows of data, you have to put a sequence function in front of it. In a recent video, we explained this in detail, so I would link to that video in the description. So please check that out if you want more about this specific technique. So we do the sequence of rows of data. So this gives me all the 52 rows. Which columns do I want? So this one is tricky. So I'm going to go and open up the square brackets, and I'm just going to put one, okay, and then close the curly brackets, and then close my index function with a parenthesis and hit enter. This gives me all the state names. So how did I get it? Because the state is the first column, it brought me the first column, all the 52 rows. But what I also want is the unemployment percentage in November, right? So I need to go and find which column is it. So you can see, you can get this in multiple ways. So as I'm, selecting here, you'll see the bottom, there's a count, which tells me that M is the 13th column. And so if I go back to my report, go back to our formula, in addition to first column, say comma 13, comma 14. So now you'll start getting those columns as well. So we need to make sure that we have the right number here. So I'm going to go back here. This is 13 This is 14, this is 15. So those are the three items that I want. So I'm going to go back to the report sheet and this 13, 14, and then let's do 15. Let me check one more time. So this is 13, month over month is 14, year over year is 15. So go back to the report sheet. So we have this now. Now we've got all the 52 rows, but we only want the top 10. So how do I limit it? I want to first sort this based on the metric that is chosen in the slicer. So I'm going to wrap it up with a sort by function at the beginning. And then what am I sorting by? Data. There is a column called value, which we created, which responds to the slicer. So whatever is chosen by the slicer, the value column will change. That's exactly what we want. So the data value column is how I want to sort it. But do I want ascending or descending? So I'm going to choose descending because we want the top value at the top here. So -1 tells Excel that I want descending order. So I'm going to hit enter, right? Now you automatically see all the unemployment percentage numbers are sorted in descending order. So it is working. There's only one last step. I only want the top 10. So go back, same formula. And so I'm going to choose rows function at the beginning. And at the end, comma, I want sequence of 10. Okay, that tells that it's 1, 2, 3. So I want the top 10 rows and hit enter. I get top 10 rows. That's it. So one formula to get everything we want. I'm going to select these and I'm going to control 1 to open the formatting menu. And then I'm going to just select uh, outline. And then I'm going to do one of these to the inside. Okay, this is again purely an appearance of choice. So this is top 10, and then I'm gonna select all of this, copy, leave a row in between, then paste it. Nothing has changed, I know, but we'll change this to bottom 10. And now you'll see the power of Excel by writing that formula. All we have to do now is to go into our formula. Instead of saying -1, if you remember, we did -1 to get the descending order, and now I want ascending. So I put 1, no other change, we are done. Again, we've done this in a previous video, very detailed about how to get top n and bottom n. In this case, we are doing 10, so I hard-coded this to 10. If you want us to be some other number or dynamic, we'll do it differently. But all you have to do is to replace that 10. So top 10, bottom 10. So now for the last part, we want to have some arrows which tell us which column is being sorted by. Is it the unemployment percent or this or this? So I'm going to write some simple formula here. I'm going to say equals if the metric, which is the metric or the measure name, equals unemployment percentage, then I keep forgetting whether it's P or Q, but I will get it. I think it's Q. So let's do Q. And I'll explain what I'm doing here. So I've done Q and I'm going to extend the formula to all these. But for the second column, this is month over month. And the third column is year over year. So in simple terms, what this is doing is if the metric chosen is unemployment percentage, put Q here. If it is, unemployment percentage month over month, then put Q here. There's only one Q here because we have chosen this. So if I click on this, it will automatically move. So let me center it. So it moved, the Q moved over there, the Q moved over there, and then the Q keeps moving. So obviously we don't want the Q there, we want an arrow. So why do I put a Q? Select these cells and change the font. I'm going to do Wingdings 3. You'll choose that. There we go. So now what happens is the character Q represents a downward arrow in the font Wingdings 3. So that's why that does it. So I'm going to copy everything and then paste it again, all those three. But here, I don't want it to be downward arrow. I want an upward arrow. So for an upward arrow, the character is P in the same font. Because we copy pasted, the font carried over, but you can see basically that if it works the same way, which column is being sorted, arrows carry over. Awesome. Now for the last little bit, I do want to say, for example, um, in our final report that we presented, we actually had arrows here as well. So for example, this one would be the number of states with increase. So increasing, so if you want to show that as an upward arrow, you would want to enter P, decrease is Q, downward arrow. And if you want to say no change, I'm going to use the characters T and U. So I'm going to select these, change it to wingdings 3. There we go. So upward, downward. Again, if you want to choose a different one for no change, please do. But this is something that I've chosen just to illustrate how you can use the font wingdings 3 to display arrows and other characters if needed. One thing I'm going to do is this is upward. So I can change the font color to make it, let's say, if there is an increase in unemployment percentage, that's not good. So I can do red. And if it is a decrease in unemployment rate, that's good. So I will make it green. And if nothing happens, then I don't know, just put gray, copy, paste. There we go. So again, we don't need to change it versus previous year. It doesn't do anything dynamically. This is a static value because we don't, in our case, our numbers here, the number of states will increase. This is not going to change. And even if the numbers change, the representation of that is the number of states where there is an increase. So this is a static symbol, red upward arrow showing that there's an increase, and then green downward arrow, then the gray arrows to show no change. So that completes our report. And again, if you want to put a border around it, you can do Control 1, make a border. There we go. Okay, so this is what we started off wanting to achieve, a dynamic interactive report with a map visual that updates, and then also a top 10, bottom 10 tables. Now let's summarize this. We started off with raw data from the website, which looked like this. And we had a few questions that we wanted to answer. Ultimately, the data to decisions, it's all about getting answers to business questions or questions that will help your organization take decisions. And in this case, we started off with the questions like which states and how many states have increased their unemployment rate, which states and how many states have decreased. We compared it with the previous month. We also compared it with the prior year. And so can we get answers to those questions from this report that we created? Yes. So if I click on unemployment percent, I can see that Puerto Rico 5.7, Nevada 5.4, District Columbia 5. So one thing I forgot to mention is you can change the formatting here to make it a number format with only one decimal, so it stays consistent, easier to read. Okay, so District of Columbia 5, California 4. So you can see top states where the unemployment rate right now is the higher values. And also you can see whether they have changed in the previous month compared to the previous year and so on. Same thing, the states with the least unemployment rate, Maryland, North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont. So these are the ones that have the lowest. You can also have the count of these states here on the left. That's straightforward. And then you have you can click on unemployment percent month over month, and then now you can see this is sorted based on that. Louisiana, Maine, these are the states where the increase from month over month was higher, and you see here on the map visual that Louisiana is darker blue, Arkansas is darker blue because they have higher change month over month. Whereas, let's say, for example, the bottom one, Minnesota, it actually declined by zero point 0.1 from October to November. You see, Minnesota is lighter in full color. So that's exactly the type of insights that we want to get quickly and easily by clicking and interacting according to what we want to look at. And so you can hand this over to your customer or client to make it more a self-serve report according to their needs. They can explore the data. Again, it's a very simple scenario that we dealt with. We didn't have like too much history of data. We had like a snapshot of data than prior year. In future videos, we'll do more different scenarios, complex ones. But hopefully this was helpful. Please put your suggestions in the comment section. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon in another video.